What's going on, everybody? TheKennyDubz here with another Mega Man X character overview video. Today we're going to be talking about Crimson Valstrax Zero as he comes to global this Wednesday. So let's take a look at it. Alright, so here Crimson Valstrax Zero. I love that highlight intro. It is so nice. Let the attention to detail like they did with Valstrax there. But let's take a look at his skills. First up, we have the Crimson Glow, shooter beam forward, dealing a percent amount of damage to the target. My skill is at 38 out of 34, so the base number will be a lot different. But after a moment, the beam will spread upwards and deal 1 times the amount of damage, which is pretty nice. So it can hit twice, or if you whiff, like, you still have a chance of like shooting upwards and hitting your target. For the modifier chips, we have Crimson Glow. I'm sorry, Dragon Energy Blast and Crimson Glow hits your target. An interference status increase damage by 30%. Accelerated Impact, damage versus accelerated by 25%. And then we have Dragon Energy Aura. When Crimson Glow is activated, gain invulnerability status for any from taking any damage. This is probably going to be the one you have on most times. To be quite honest, if you're in a PvE or PvP scenario, in PvE, I mean, you probably still want this, to be honest. This isn't bad. But I think overall this is probably the best modifier chip here. And this one, I guess, if you want more damage, if you want to try and just go all out with damage, not worry about having iframes. Then we have the Crimson Assault, perform a dash in the direction of the target and deal again an amount of damage. My skill has been leveled up, so it is a lot higher than what the base level will be, and will not take any damage during this use. So you have iframes during this as well, which is nice because this lunges you at the target just like it is in Monster Hunter. When it does its ambush, it lunges forward and deals damage to things in this path. For the modifier of this one's actually very different, because all of these, as you can see here, will inflict the interference status. And each one is going to interference with a different status ailment. For this one, causes accelerated interference status when hitting a target. It will nullify the newly gained accelerated status. So this one is specifically for acceleration status, so enemies that have movement buffs. This one's for defense enhancement, so versus enemies that have defense enhancement. And this one is for damage enhancement status, so when enemies have a damage enhancement status on them. Now, for PvP, maybe this one or this one. I think with this one you're allowed a little bit more leeway with what you're running into a lot. But if you want to deal more damage, you go with this. If you want the enemies to do less damage, you go with this. This could also be useful as well as being able to chase down your enemy and have them not run away from you as quickly is very nice as well. But for PvP, none of these, or for PvE, none of these actually matter. Right, like if you're using Crimson Valstrax Zero for PvE, these don't do anything for you. So for the passive skills, we have Dragon Energy, giving Dragon Energy status that cannot be eliminated every 25 seconds. When you attack, when the skill attack hits the first target, Dragon Energy will be detonated in place and continue to deal damage on the target it comes in contact with. If Crimson Glow is used, the effect will only be activated if the target survives after the hit, and the effect will be ineffective as the Crimson Glow spreads upwards. So what does that mean? After you hit something while you have Dragon Energy status, it will cause an explosion, much like Crimson Valstrax can do in Monster Hunter. And you get the status every 25 seconds, and it cannot be removed. It can be like it'll be dispelled because it only lasts X amount of seconds. So after it runs out, that's technically like it being dispelled. I probably chose a poor word there. Once it times out would probably be a better way of saying it, because when I typically say dispel, I'm referring to the forcible removal of a skill, of a buff, like with interference. Like interference dispels whatever buff it says. Like for these, like this dispels attack enhancement, this one was defense enhancement, this dispels interference enhancement. So when this buff expires, that's the word. That is a word in English language that I can use. When this buff expires, this buff can expire, but it cannot be removed. We have Dragon Energy Attraction. The prep time for Crimson Glow reduced by 20%, so that is very nice there. We have Crimson Comet. When activating Crimson Glow in Crimson Dragon, when Dragon Energy status, it will release several additional energy projectiles that ignore terrain and have enemy-seeking effect to the target to deal damage. So when you use Crimson Glow, you shoot out like little balls of energy that lock on or that track enemies and can deal additional damage for you, which is quite nice. Here we have Continuous Fire. Crimson Assault can be used again when it hits a target. This effect can only be used after a single cooldown. I love passive like this because this lets you skill spam. This means that you get some nice burst damage in. You can only do this every 8 seconds, but I think the cooldown for it is close to 8 seconds. With mobility, it might be like 6.5 seconds with that, but and when you use Crimson Assault, reduce the prep time for Crimson Glow by 1 second. I like this as well because having cooldown reduction is always fantastic. And then we have Evil Star Assault. When activating Crimson Assault in Dragon Energy state, it will summon an Evil Star to burst in and deal damage to all targets in its path. When Evil Star hits, gain a preventative shield that will protect you against all negative status effects. Again, I don't like the wording of preventative shield because due to power creep, things now pierce preventative shield, so it doesn't protect you from all negative status effects. I just think they should go back and retroactively reword them so that they say most status effects. Because in Pokemon Masters, they word the effects like that so that it won't always activate despite what it's supposed to do. Alright, because moves that are things that would be guaranteed to crit in that game, they say except in certain conditions, which when the enemy cannot be crit, you won't crit them with the moves that are supposed to crit. So but that's just like a minor thing that I would like for clarity's purpose. Just because I know about things that can pierce preventative shield, and I think that'd be better overall for people to understand it. So for the DNA, I believe the DNA will be released with Crimson Abstract Zero. I'm not entirely sure, but first up we have Dynamic Destruction. When Crimson Assault hits, it will slow the target and reduce movement speed by 37.5%, roughly 38%. So that is real good. Oops, that's not what they do. So when you hit with your Crimson Assault over here, when you dive tackle them, they're going to be slowed, which is great because you can go from that into bursting them down with this, and they might get blown away. Next up, we have Dragon Energy Activation. Dragon Energy status wait time is shortened. It can be activated every 20 seconds, which is great. 5 seconds difference is actually a decent chunk. So now once every 20 seconds, you will have access to this status, which is great. So that means your damage will have a spike every 20 seconds, which is good. The bad part about that is that your damage spikes aren't going to be consistent because it's once every 20 seconds, like in between that time when you don't have your buff and you're waiting for this to recharge, your damage is going to go down a little bit. When defeating a target with a weapon or skill, recover HP equal to 17% of the attack. This effect can only be triggered once more after a 5-second cooldown. I like this. This is good for PvE purposes. So now you can just spam your Crimson Abstract Zero. He doesn't really have like a full screen nuke, but he can, clear out a wave of enemies, tackle them, clear out another wave of enemies because you can somewhat spam your skills. But yeah, this is just more so a PvE kind of thing that I like that they included. Gives you more viability in that, more sustainability, because you have this, you have actually your preventative shield, and then you also have your iframes as well, so he can be pretty useful in PvE because of all that as well. And then we have Star of Despair. When activating Crimson Glow, it will cause explosions along a clear trajectory, causing damage to all targets in this range. So now when you use Crimson Glow, you get access to like glow explosions. This is kind of like the Dimensional Explosion with Dive Armor X, kind of along the same vein as that. That's pretty nice. And then for the unique DNA here, we have Scourge. When causing interference status or hitting a target and interference status, remove all positive status. This effect can only be triggered again after 8-second cooldown. And this right here is where I was like, oh, okay, now it's all coming together. Right? Like Kronk. Because this allows you to dispel all targets buffs rather than just having them dispel one buff. Right? It makes a little bit more sense why all the modifier chips for this now are interference based. I kind of would have liked if they all weren't interference based, but I mean, at least they have a bit more applicability now due to the unique random DNA. And I don't know. I'm checking to see here real quick. Does he? You have and you have interference partial attack 3, which is nice as well. So you can stack interference attack on here as well, which is very, very nice there. So you can get even more damage off of that because you get Scourge. You do that, and then you do you get interference partial attack 3, and then you can get it's probably on 2 actually. Interference partial attack 2 here, and then if you really want to, you can get the dragon, the dragon energy blast there, because those are all things you can do to ramp up your damage. And the reason I'm bringing like those up in particular, or you could just use player killer. Realistically, player killer is a lot more. Player killer is a lot more generic, but you get a little bit less damage out of it for PvP. The trade-off is that the target has to be in interference status. However, if you opt to go for player killer or interference attack, that will alter what cards you will go with it. And I'll go into that a little bit more when I get to the card section. But for now, let's take a look at some weapons that may go well with Crimson Valstrax Zero. So, as Crimson Valstrax Zero isn't exactly a unit that has a bunch of inherent mitigation or damage amplification, you can kind of just build them however you want. So the things that I probably recommend the most for Crimson Valstrax Zero, and people are probably going to be upset at me for this, Turbo Cannon. I think Turbo Cannon is just great. It's one of the weapons you can use very, very effectively with Crimson Valstrax Zero. Alongside Turbo Cannon, you can also make use of Cannon God, as Cannon God is a great weapon. Though depending on the map you're in, you might not necessarily want the Cannon God. I think it's better on maps that are not as open, just because one of the main benefits of Cannon God is that it pierces terrain. So if you're on a map that doesn't have a lot of terrain anyway, you might want to do something a little bit different. But Cannon God also has very, very good range. And speaking of good range, you have your Sniper Busters. Personally, I like the Sniper Busters in general. They are my favorite type of weapon. And alongside Sniper Buster, you have your Explosive Bolt, which is very, very nice as well. You also have your Destructive Laser as well, which is a very, very nice pick. Freezing Dominator might be a decent option as well, because Freezing Dominator allows you to get access to a shield as well, so that you have access to a shield, you have access to iframes, you have access to preventative shield, all just on Crimson Valstrax Zero. You can even have access to healing because of Crimson Valstrax Zero's passive. So this is something that you can consider. Also, with the Freezing Dominator, you can use your Crimson Assault to close the distance, get some damage in on that, get the slow off of that, and then on top of that, put the chill status on them so they're even slower. You do something like that. As per usual, I'm going to recommend Nightmare and Berserker Greatsword, but I'm also going to throw Ancient Relic onto this as well, because Ancient Relic has a speed boost attached to it as well. So if you depending on the map, you might want to have the speed boost so that you can run down your opponent. You just kind of spam out your energy, run over to your opponent or get within range so that you can just use your abilities, which is quite nice. For that, you could in theory also use Air Buster for that as well, if you really want, but I think this would be better overall for using, because of, well, one, you can kind of just spin to win, which is the thing. You have your dash slash. We also have your burn, which does a little bit of damage. Though with that, I think that this is more of a this might be more of like a maybe situational or niche kind of thing you might want to do because of the speed boost. I think something like I said, I think something like that would be a bit better on maybe like a bigger map where you want to close a distance with your opposition in order to get close to them. But like I had mentioned earlier, if you're on a map where that's quite large and has a lot of terrain, I think you're just better off using Cannon God more often than not. But that's me personally. I think I'd prefer to use Cannon God over that, depending on the map, especially because Crimson Valstrax Zero, it doesn't inherently have any damage amplification or mitigation with his weapons. or whatever weapons he has access to. I will say though, I do like the Berserker Greatsword on this as well though, because Crimson Valstrax Zero inherently has a slow that he can get onto them, and alongside like Dimensional Rift, you could probably rack up damage very, very quickly with your melee weapons. Though you might just want Nightmare, because Nightmare is Nightmare, so you could just like spin to win very, very freely if you get close, because you can slow them inherently. Alright, unfortunately there is a weapon that does inflict the interference status, but it just came out in the Taiwan version recently, so it doesn't necessarily help the global players regarding Crimson Valstrax Zero, but I figured I'll throw it in here anyway in the odd chance that anyone that plays Taiwan, the Taiwan version, is watching this. The most recent weapon, this weapon right here, can apparently inflict the... Also, it looks pretty cool. Well, I saw it on the banner, I just haven't pulled for it. But yeah, apparently this weapon can inflict the interference status. When I was trying to find a weapon that inflicts interference status, because that would be a decent fit as well. But off the top of my head, the only weapon I know that does that, aside from this now, is this baddie right here. Yeah, and you don't really want to use this weapon when you're trying to do something semi-productive in PvP. So yeah. However, if you're in a PvE scenario, maybe you want the Bubble Bomber, as that will restore your health when you're hit, and the hidden skill can do it when you run out of ammo as well, to prolong your longevity. So that is a good option there. This is also a good option, the Heart Spray Gun as well, because you have Emotional Reflux that can trigger to heal you, and the two of the hidden skills, Inject Emotion and Free Emotion, can heal you as well. So those are very, very nice for that, alongside the Baton card. And I think that's enough for the weapons for now. So let's take a look at some cards that would go well with Crimson Valstrax Zero. Alright, so for this one in particular, I think you have a little bit more options. I poked around a little bit, and I mentioned we'll get to some stuff when it comes to cards. So I was talking about with the random DNA, right? You can kind of decide if you want to stack Player Killer in that, or if you want to stack Interference Special Attack, because depending on what you put in your random DNA, you might want something else in your cards. As such, because I typically recommend, you know, your weapon-specific things depending on what weapon you're using, generic things for, you know, for PvE or PvP, such as the Player Killer cards. Your M Bison is very solid. Your Life Aura is very solid. I think this one as well. Yes, Sigma X for a second form. The Mac card, and I think there was one more. Where's Mac? It's an Aaron card. Did I pass it? Yes, this card. Look over here. They all have Player Killer. However, if you go with Player Killer 3 and Player Killer 2 in your random DNA, you definitely don't want to have these at 5-star, or you don't even want to have these cards at all, because these at minimum have Player Killer 2, and then at that point those will not stack with your... Oops, not that one. They will not stack with your DNA. So you're just going to want to be careful with what you're putting in there, because they won't stack, because as long as they have the same name, they will not stack. Yes, as an example, if you have Player Killer 3 in your DNA, a 5-star version of Sigma X for second form should have Player Killer 3 as the second passive. That will not stack because they're both called Player Killer 3. If you want to stack them, you will need Player Killer 2 and Player Killer 3. So you would need a base form of this card. However, alongside that, because I had mentioned Interference Special Attack, I believe the Palette card has that, but you probably don't want to use that. Where's Blanca? I know I said Blanca, but Blanca is not what I meant, because Blanca's icon, the icon for they're both blue, okay? Blanca is not Interference Special Attack. However, you can go with Interference Special Attack from the Vega card. That is one option. Oh, you only have one? I think you had two at minimum. Okay, well, Vega has Interference Special Attack 1, so you might not want that. Because it'll be level 2 by the time you get this to 5-star. Again, this is going to depend on whether or not you want to stack Infinite Special Attack in here on your cards, or if you want to stack that in your DNA. Akuma as well. I didn't mention Akuma earlier, I mentioned M. Bison, but Akuma is a very, very good card because Master of the Fist will stack with any level of player killer because this isn't the same name. But this also gives you a little bit of mitigation as well when fighting another player. So 2 Akuma cards, alongside maybe, depending on what you use, like 2 Akumas and a blue card might go well. Okay, it took me a while to find this card here, because I was looking especially for this skill. Now this card I don't believe is out in global just yet, but it should come with the second round of the Monster Hunter collaboration if it is not in global. However, this card has the no skill resistance, and that's something you're gonna want to, you might want to keep on your Crimson Valstrike Zero, just because you want to be able to use your skills. So a nice little thing you might want to have on somewhere, if not here, maybe, you know, in your inherited, in your random DNA somewhere, or distance to this, because you don't really skill spam, but you can continuously use your skills with, you know, at some points, and that's going to be where a lot of your damage comes from. So you might want to slide this on here somewhere as well. I just wanted to find a card with this. You don't actually have to use the Bashaltin card specifically, obviously, unless it fits with whatever your build is. All right, and then outside of that, you kind of just want to fill in the holes with maybe your melee amplification or your buster amplification or whatever. Again, whatever weapon that you're using, right? Just go. You just want to put on whatever amplification you're using for the unit, because it doesn't have any inherent damage with that way. Or, you know, maybe just stack the player killer or the interference special attack like I had suggested earlier. Alright, I think that's going to wrap it up for Crimson Valstrike Zero. Looking forward to this unit dropping finally in the global version. But that will be it for this video. As per usual, I want to give a special shout out to my patrons and channel members who continue to support me and allow me to continue doing what I do. If you'd like to find out how to support me on Patreon or become a YouTube channel member, you can find that information down below in the video description or just below the video. And I will see you guys next time. Later.